All right, all right, all right, all right. I think we're live here. Let's see. Good morning, good afternoon. I think we're good here. All right, good morning. How is everybody? Let's do a little GameStop option flow, a little live action. How are you? Let me get this posted here real quick so we can get everybody going. Good morning. I know everybody's excited. I got a few DMs like, "Hey, what's going on? What's is this the gamma you talk about?" I know it is. We talk about that gamma 26 and 27 and 28 and 29. Let's look at it here. I think we're live. Let me make sure. Okay, I can see we're live up there. You guys will have to let me know. I'll try to monitor it on my phone. Let's take a look at that though. A GameStop high today, 29.39. We'll get into some flow here. How are y'all doing though this morning? I know everybody got excited. We see some volume. We see some option flow. It's not really FOMO, but everybody saw 29 and ooh, it got exciting and got a little bit of volume there this morning too. So let's take a look at some of that option flow. Let me pull this up here on my device and make sure we are good to go. Everything appears to be good to go. Okay, yeah, we just wanted to make sure we were live here and posted it. So cool. All right, all right, all right. Okay, cool. I was just making sure that we are good to go here. So I am live. If anybody wants to watch this, we can look at some GameStop option flow here. So we're looking at it in real time. I know usually I do the videos, but I was like, today I'm at the desk. I have a little bit of time this morning. So we're going to go live with the folks here. So let's take a look at that option flow this morning here. A little bit on that net put premium, just flat, pushed up a little bit as GameStop saw that high, what, 29.39? Yeah, 29.39. Trading at 29. So let's look at that. The flow, though, on the net call premium started moving up there shortly after the open and peaked there about 3 mil net call premium right around 9 o'clock there. So we'll take a look at that. Prices come down a little bit of decline on the net call premium, but the stock's still up, what, 2% for the day, a new higher high today. Anything above 29.80, would be the previous high from the gap up on earnings. And just like we talked about with that gamma that existed at 27, 28, and I said if for those that watch my daily videos, I talked about if it gets over 27, gets over 28, more of those calls go in the money, creates that upside pressure on the stock, and inversely, if some of those calls come off the table or put positioning changes or some longs are sold, then you could get the gamma pressure going the opposite way, and it creates downside pressure, additional selling of the stock, based on market makers hedging with the call options. So let's take a look at some of the impact today. We try to look at it here in real time with you. So it looks like they're the greatest impact, cash wise, where that money on the call side looked like $25 calls for June and 30s for May next week here. So let's look at those 30s for next week there. Someone went full send, I know a little bit. So yesterday we had about 7,000 volume, about 2,000 appeared in new open interest, but today already about 900,000 in premium, and someone hit it right there. 30s for May next week right here came through right about $1. So let's pull that up. We can look, and this is real time. I know you're getting the real time flow. None of those little cheesy websites that are just kind of hodgepodge. With Unusual Whales, you get the real time data. Every single order. Boom. That's what I pay for. That's what you get with a subscription. You can't get access to real time data without that, without a form of subscription because it's very costly. So, with whales, you get that. So if we look at some of this here, a little bit of, I wouldn't know if that's a multi-leg per se. We'll look at it though. Fill in the suite. We're gonna filter that here by size. Look at some of the largest order on that block there. And I know there was a flow alert because that's why I was like, yeah, we're gonna go online. So there's your flow alert that came through at 9:42. So about 13 minutes ago on Unusual Whales, those were $1 for the $30 calls from May 23rd. Came through as a flow alert. I slammed about 400 of those. Let's see, on that particular order that triggered the flow alert. And then here comes some more right there. So it was a little bit before some as well. Let's see here. And then 944, another one 3,000. So that was about 320,000 in premium came through right there. Let's look at that. Let's see, 2913, the stock's trading at. Yes, they slammed it right there. So let's see what's actually gone down the last few days. See if anybody sold some of these and maybe raced to buy them back. No, I'd say maybe buying. Maybe some selling as well. You can see some bid side. And depending on the fill, sometimes, like for example, when I sell calls, sometimes they'll get a good fill, so it looks like I'm buying, but in reality I was selling, and vice versa. That can happen because how it comes across, whatever the price is at the time. So if it's closer to the bid, it's going to denote bid. If it's closer to the ask, it's going to denote ask based on that spot. But there was a little bit of selling today, a little bit of bid volume. So, traders could be closing, could be scalping. Somebody could have bought some of these at 50 and then liquidated them on the way up this morning with that little bit of move on the stock. Because the IV is a little bit juiced here. Let's see, 68%, not too bad today, but it is up a little bit. So let's look at some other goodies here. I know, good morning. Let me check the feed here on X, make sure everything's good in that regard. Turn down my volume here so I don't get any crazy feedback. I was just seeing if anybody had commented besides bots. There we go. Just repost that here real quick. Cool. All right. Let's look at these 25s for June that come through this morning as well. In the money calls come through about 524. A contract $524. So open interest been decreasing on these, probably because they're in the money. Traders closing, traders taking their shares. These are $4 essentially in the money as GameStop trades at 29. So yeah, they're kind of hitting that this morning though. Let's look at that particular trade as well. That's what kind of juiced the option flow this morning, because that was alerted as well. Part of a flow alert on unusual whales. I'm going to look at the size here. Yeah, so some of these larger ones, not too much, but I mean, still good size. But those were all part of a flow alert this morning, coming through about $500, $520. But they were definitely buying a few of those in the money. I like seeing some in the money call options. It gets a little juicy. I like in the money call options myself. A little bit of multi there, so let's see what else we got going on. I believe there's is there a chat section here? Oh yeah, I know where it's at. I'm so silly. Hold on here. Here we go. Now I'm in the, let's see, live chat. Okay. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. Live chat. Sergio, send it, Ryan. Hey, I like that. I like what you just replied, Sergio. I also like your Mazda, too. That's sick. Rotary Lifestyle. That's awesome, bro. I just seen that. Oh, and you're on YouTube, too. I'll check you out for sure. That's awesome. Send it, Ryan. That's cool. Your reply to the video, or reply to the live with that. Let's see. I like your setup. You got the 28s are in the money. Your GameStop $30 calls for July. Just kind of right there. I mean, you're up, Always be careful, protect those gains, especially with volatility. But you know that. You know what to do. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. We got quite a few people here. It looks like 1,000. Looks like 1,000 plus people. So yeah, we're cranking. I know people like the GameStop. They wanted to talk. I mean, I report on it daily, whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. Me personally, it's fun. I enjoy the stock. I've been a customer of the store for a very long time. I mean, I was one of the OGs for the Call of Duty World at War midnight release back like 2007 or 8. So, I mean, even before then, like GameStop at the mall as a teenager. But, yeah, I mean, when they were talking trash about GameStop and, oh, the notes and, oh, it was convertible note arbitrage. I shared that on my X as well this morning. So go look at that. Just kind of a refresher. They're going to short the stock while they buy the notes. Then as the price moved back up to the conversion price, you'll see kind of that switch to the long side as the arbitrage of the trade fades away. So what happened is when they announced those notes, they short the stock while they buy the notes. That provides the liquidity for the transaction. We talked about that. A great refresher is on my X because I did share that this morning. Let's see here. Yes, I talked about the convertible note arbitrage. I had it in videos many times during April and at the end of March when it first came up. Shared this again this morning, the convertible note arbitrage. Just kind of wanted to get folks to understand what was happening, because everybody got panicked that the stock went back down, but all that did was kind of give a reset and a good opportunity to reload. But in reality, most of that was centered around the just the arbitrage of the actual stock. For example, remember everybody was like, "Oh, look at all that short volume." Da, 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 da. Again, that fell off the cliff as well because that was related simply to the arbitrage. Shortly when that was released, they sell the notes, you short the stock. As a way to hedge, you buy shorting the stock and you buy the notes. So essentially buying the notes, you were long. Whoever bought the 1.3 billion, they knew the price would come back and they'd have that option at their conversion price, 29 and change, and we talked about that. And that's why the short volume fell off the cliff because that was just a moment in time related to the arbitrage, related to the convertible notes. So there's always a lot of misinformation on X. You see it all the time. Whether people watch my videos or not, I always clear the air, especially when it comes to misinformation. If you can't cite it, if you can't source it, and just showing flow or not knowing what you're talking about can kind of dissuade investors. You're not doing the due diligence. Simply just posting to get clout on X to make your $30 every 2 weeks an X revenue, that's not it. For example, last 2 weeks or Friday, I received 0 X revenue for the last 2 weeks. And I think the 2 weeks before that was like 60 or $80. So it's really not even that much. As long as it covers the $9 premium charge, that's all I care about. So, but yeah, I mean, you see the stock move back up. And now, as the stock moved back to 29, you're kind of back in that area, where it gapped up following earnings. So I encourage you, go back, read about this convertible arbitrage. In fact, I went back even further to March and just go back to this post right here, especially the one where I compare it to MicroStrategy, well, the strategy now, and just how when they introduce convertible notes, the stock goes down as they short it when they sell the notes, and then the arbitrage kind of wraps up. The hedging desk, whoever kind of propagates that trade, essentially, they begin to unwind the hedge, and then you see the stock move, and then the notes, whatever, they took their money or they took their shares. Same thing with GameStop. It's no different. So look at that post right here. And that is basically what will happen with GameStop as they adopted a very similar policy. Now, GameStop has not said they've bought any Bitcoin, but they did say, we sold the 1.3 billion worth of convertible notes. So definitely worth watching. And one thing I said, as you saw with the GameStop short volume, and I just showed on the chart, you can't grab 1.3 billion in liquidity without hedging the underlying, and that's what happened. And nobody seems to care that, oh no, and people are like, oh my gosh, the stock's down. Even at 20 in April, it's double than it was a year ago. That's your opportunity when volatility kind of curbed down to load into the May and June OPEX, the May and June monthly option expiry. I talk about it every day on video. I'm going to move all the videos to YouTube as well. I've got many old YouTube channels actually right now. So one of them is going to be rebranded, and I'm going to have all the videos there so that way if you don't see them on X, they'll be available on YouTube. That may work better for you. I know a lot of people asked about that. So it's definitely something we are going to do in that regard. So, but it was opportunity, when everybody was like, now they're all euphoric. So that's why you got to take your emotion. What's your objective? With GameStop, did you buy high? Did you buy in at these, at 35, 40 last year? Is that the problem? Did you get blown out on some weekly out of the money call options with high volatility? Maybe, I don't know. But long term, I mean, the stock's been doing great. This is where it was at a year ago, $10. It's 29. I mean, wow, it's incredible, and they got a lot of cash on the books. Even if you look at like the weekly, you got the weekly MACD cross. Everybody was all hype about that. But look at the stock. It's just well over any of its moving averages, with some of its shorter moving averages moving up as well, a shorter time frame. So if you look over here to the left hand side of your screen, some of your just on the weekly. I mean, the 9 EMA 26. Yeah, they're all at 26 and 25. So trading well above that and just a higher high, a higher weekly high as well. So, 29.80 would be your high back on March 26th. So any movement above there, but we're like, hey, Wolf, what's up with that gamma? I know we talked about that all the time. So we go back over here and we're gonna pull that up and we're gonna look at that. So net call premium about 2.5 mil. Price come down just a little bit. I would assume some people probably took some profit on their short dated options. Shorting the stock. Many different ways to trade it. So some of your highest volume contracts traded this morning are the $29 calls and 30s for this week. So let's look at those. Boom, those got alerted as well this morning for more volume than open interest. So the alert came through. Let's see how much. About $40 to 70. So if you traded those, you almost doubled your money. Not too bad on a short dated contract there. IV only 68%, about 1.5 mil total premium on the $29 call. So they did peak up there to 74. So for those that were buying some at 40 and you sold them at 70, not a bad day trade, honestly. I wouldn't be mad at it. Take your money. I always say that. That's the objective here. You can't just buy out of the money call options, watch them advance into profit, and then watch that dissipate, and then take a L. And if you are going to take an L, trim those, cut those losers, cut them quickly, 10, 15%, 20% even. I mean, I'm not sure what you're doing with your money, but don't light it on fire. And if you see a move like that, those were out of the money slightly this morning, then went in the money. You see a move like that on short dated calls that expire in 2 days, don't ride that out. Take your gain, trim it, take it all, whatever you want to do. Yes, is it short term trading? Yes. Do you incur tax, for short term gain? Yes, but you're trading a short term contract. So more than likely, if you didn't lose, you were going to incur a gain, a tax. So, but as you can see, that's back down to 49. So if you bought here on the hype up at 40, you're like, hey, I should have sold at 70. I see it all the time. Oh, I should have sold here. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's right around the time you were screenshotting and getting excited right here. You were like, yeah. And then you looked at it, it's right back to where you entered. I know it's not as exciting. Protect those gains. That's the whole point. It's not about today. It's not about tomorrow. It's about, can you trade in 3 years from now? Can you trade in 5 years from now? Can you trade in 10 years from now? Everything you do today leads up to those moments. Long term, yes, you can take the short term to advance your long term goals. But certainly in the short term, take your money. I say it all the time. I will. I mean, I do all the time. I don't care. I'll cut a loser at 10, 15%. Does it suck? Sure. They're not always going to be winners. And I get excited about 10% gains. And I'll start sizing out 10, 15%, 20. I don't care what it goes to. I don't care what it does after I left. As long as I followed my rules, my strategy, my thesis, protected my gains or cut my losers quickly, I get to play the game again and I get to continue trading the next day. I get to continue advancing my family, my book, my lifestyle with my family. That's what I enjoy, eating. We enjoy eating and cooking and being home and, traveling with the kids and doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, you got to protect your book though. So we look at those 30s this morning that were out of the money. They were coming in, getting filled around $20. I saw the alert on unusual whales. And then they ran all the way up to 44. So they doubled. They doubled. Now, some people probably took their gains because you can see the red, which would be indicative of selling, bid. And green would be ask, indicative of buying. So, for example, could be buy low, sell high. You could also think, hey, I don't think GameStop will close above 30 this week, so I'm going to sell some of those. You might have taken advantage of that because the IV today, 84% on those. So the IV did spike up a little bit on those calls. So maybe that's something you took advantage of. I'm not sure. Always different ways to trade the stock and trade the options in that regard. But you can see, the FOMO here, where GameStop started moving up 29, you could see people start buying in. And if anyone bought, here at 40, 33 or higher, you're kind of right there. So let's see, those are last trade on there at 32. So yeah, always be careful with the short dated, out of the money. Don't let the FOMO and everything get the best of you. If you bought them low, sell them high. If you're selling them high, don't be greedy. Buy them back. That's the point. You be careful. A lot of people like get overly confident in a trade or overly confident, especially with like GameStop, and you can get wrecked either way. You can go long and then you'll catch the, maybe tail end of somebody selling some calls and you catch a little short, or the opposite, you ran up, you got excited when it was at 29.30 and you just boom hit them calls. You got to be careful doing that. You know how it goes. You've seen this play out. But you're kind of seeing gamma. And you're seeing gamma without any other catalyst, A lot of people are like, hey, win roaring kitty. And I've talked about this, not to be insulting, but you don't necessarily need them. Now, last year was fun. The stock got juiced. GameStop sold a bunch of shares. Then recently did their convertible notes. So they've got plenty of cash. They have no debt. They turn a little bit of a net income in the store. PSA cards are now over 1 million graded. So, they're doing some things, to the legacy business within the store, making changes, kind of to the walls. They got the trading cards and collectibles. And you saw some of that inch up with their earnings, seeing the push towards collectibles. You saw that increase just a little bit. So, yeah, I'm not sure, but GameStop's still here. Some people counted it out back during the pandemic, They counted out a lot of retail stores, but here they are, still strong with what, $6 billion in cash almost, zero debt. And, whether you talk about their legacy business or not, it's running at what, 12.9 billion market cap. So it puts it at forward, it's trading what, 61 times forward earnings. A little pricey. But to be honest with you, if you say GameStop's overvalued based on forward earnings, then we have to address Palantir. Palantir is a $306 billion market cap and is trading at 387 times forward earnings. So if Palantir can trade at 130 and nearly 400 times forward earnings, there's no reason why GameStop can't trade at 70 times forward earnings. Wall Street has priced this stock right now at $28.84. That's where buyers and sellers are agreeing to pay and trade GameStop at $28.83. A year ago, it was $10. Were you guys buying last year? Do you remember my post last May when we were talking about those first roaring kitty calls before the stock moved? We were in it at like 11, and that thing juiced to what, 50 or 6? I don't know. That was fun last year. And you were all here. We were just partnered with Unusual Whales a year ago, so shout out to them. They're great people as well. Good friends, good people. Our relationship, 5 years now. So 1 year on a partnership, business level, 5+ years. So incredible. Absolutely love my people over at Unusual Whales. So let me check this chat here. Send it to Valhalla. Yeah, 28.83. So let's look at that gamma though. And for those that need the refresher here we go. We're going to talk about spot gamma. Ooh, it was like 20 mil. Now it's 31 mil. So what happens is, what this means is for every 1% change in the price, it's about $32 million, because the net gamma exposure is about 4 million shares long via options. So what that means is when the price goes up or down, that's how much hedging is going to go down by market maker. I want you to take a screenshot here. If you're watching this live right now, on what spot gamma exposure is. It's the assumed dollar value of gamma exposure that market makers need to hedge per 1% change of the stock's price, or the underlying stock price movement. Positive value long gamma, negative value short. I talk about this all the time. In short, what this meant was when GameStop was 27 and 28, I said the closer GameStop moves to 27, 28, 29, 30, more of those calls that were sitting out there with open interest become in the money or at the money, which in turn creates upside pressure on the stock as market makers continue hedging, buying shares against those options, which also more people then buy options because they're FOMOing into the stock and buying common shares, which just creates more upside pressure. But any change to that and it's the opposite, and they sell a little bit off, and you get some downside pressure to the stock as well. So I said, hey, if this thing gets to 29 or 30, I mean, there's a lot of open interest up there at 30. You know, a lot of gamma built up into May and June option expiry. We talked about this, and a little bit out there above 30, but the bulk of it there was at 28. Well, that's all in the money at this point. 29 just right there at the money, and 30 just slightly out of the money. Now, if we look at that gamma by the strike here, that's why I said this morning at 30, that net gamma was loaded. It was also loaded at 27, 50, 28, 29. Not a whole lot of put gamma, but it does exist. But that 28, 29, 30, this is strong. So that's why you're seeing that move on the stock. You know, any move toward that. Plus, you have, you know, the conversion price of the convertible notes, you know, around what, 29.85. So yeah, I mean, the time as the stock moves closer to that, you got that as well for the stock, and the hedging, you know, the hedging unwinds or winds back up. So seeing a little bit of a pullback. Stock's up what, 28.78, so still up 40 cents today, in the high 29.39. So does that change anything? No, it's a little healthy pullback. The net gamma is strong this week because of the May expiry. As the monthly, it's built up into June, and now seeing a little bit of that net gamma continue into next week and the end of May expiry, and built into June, starting to build into July and August, or pardon me, August or July and January. And you'll see as the months advance, like I talk about in my videos, you'll probably see more of that net gamma building up in that regard. So, but I mean, the largest by strike, right here, 28 largest net gamma. These $27, $28 call or puts are blown out currently, so are the 26. So depending on your scenario there with GameStop, that's either working for you or not. Not much put gamma there at 29 or 30, but very strong net gamma. You know, a solid close at 28.50, 29. You know, retest 29.80. If those 30s were to go in the money or get closer to out the money, it gets a little more spicy because it probably introduce more FOMO in that regard. So, and you know how this works. You've seen this last year. You've seen it every other year. Protect yourself. Protect your gains. Be reasonable in your expectations. Please don't get caught up. And I don't want to see, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. These are your opportunities. When they happen, for example, when I make these videos in the morning, I've had people say, I don't have 25 minutes to watch the video. And I get that. I don't give passes to people that say they're more busy or less busy than others. We're all equal out here, so I don't think anybody can be more or less busy. That's very subjective and very objective. But I put the time into it because I want to see other people make money. Because I enjoy when they reply or send me a message like, hey, I understand what you're telling me, or I appreciate the videos, or I've learned a lot from this, or I've been able to level up financially, or I've been able to help my family, or I've helped my portfolio. That's what I like. That makes me excited. And I would do it for free because I do. It doesn't bother me. I enjoy content. If you go back, if I were to tell you where I mean, you can find them on YouTube, but I just always enjoy talking to people, helping people. That's just who I am. My grandpa raised me as that. He always helped people. He liked to see other people just learn about stuff and advance their life, advance their family, advance their career, whatever they're doing. So I kind of like to do the same. I get very excited about that. I just get excited about seeing other people. Truthfully, on X, I get real excited about seeing people just like making money and like losing less money. Like if they were to say, well, a year ago I was doing this, but I've made some changes. You know, I've educated, I've, you know, hired someone, or I've got a mentor, or I've spent a lot of time on education. I love that. Because, you know, like with anything, my son constantly reminds me, it's about 10,000 hours, you know, essentially to master something. And I know I spent, you know, 6 years in college to get a master's degree in computer science with a strong background in mathematics, programming, and networking. So bulk of my career was spent building networks for colleges, wireless, and main networks. So essentially all the wireless network, the local network, fiber network that would connect to your main, like to AT&T, etc. Uh, routing, switching. Yeah. So I like math though, and that's why I like stocks and investing. I graduated high school in '98, so I've been around the market a long time in that regard. When you could first, get a brokerage account, not online, it was I think like through the bank at my grandpa's bank. But yeah, I mean it's all what you make of it. It's long term in that regard. There's a lot of short term trading going on, but I'm kind of like I'm 45, so my investment objectives may be different than yours. My children are grown, and that may be different than your scenario in that regard as well. So, like my son just turned 24. I know, and he's been running his own business for the last couple of years. So, pretty wild to see that. Oh, where are we at? 28.91. Let's see some of the flow here coming in. You guys want to see what some like just live flow looks like? Now I can do this a little bit. I can't because if you don't have an unusual whale subscription, technically I can't stream just raw live flow. That's not fair to them. They pay a lot of money, and then me being a customer of them and other people, it wouldn't be fair to them. But we can look at it. So we'll look at it live here. We're going to remove all the filters. Just so I want to give you an idea of what GameStop flow looks like here. When people talk about, oh, let's look at the flow. A lot of people, not a lot, there's quite a few knowledgeable people on X that share flow, but there's also some people that have flow or, that have access to flow. And then I generally feel like they just share things for screenshots, if that makes sense. Because half the time I read the stuff and I'm like, that is not even what is happening there. But it's not my job really to correct those people. I just don't want to be that type. I'm just like, I just make sure the information I put out is alpha, something you can use to make money. People are like, hey, how can I make money with you? Okay. You want to see how? I don't know what other people charge for a sub. I don't really care. It was just $5. It's what it is what it is. So you're like, well, what do you do over there? Well, I'll show you right now. Okay. So last Friday morning, a minute after the open, I said, hey, I'm watching these $300 calls for Tesla. Why? Because we saw the flow come in on Thursday. I didn't follow that immediately. I wanted to see the open interest come in, update on Friday, and that helped add to my conviction on the trade. Okay, so I'm like, hey, okay, so this is what they're doing. Fine. Can we get an entry? Yeah, at 1668. Yeah, 1 minute after the open. Tesla was 292. Tesla was 340 this morning. Those calls were $5,000. There's one of them right there. That's what I do on my sub. So I don't know what you do, but that was just one. I do this stuff all day. Tesla, SoFi, I give a thesis, GameStop. Yeah. And yeah, but it doesn't matter. I guess I should start putting more of the because I looked at the Tesla one, and I'm like, that's $1,600 to $5,000, $3,000 a contract. So I'm like, people are sub, but I don't know if they're seeing it. So I don't know if that's a problem with X or X doesn't show the. Yeah, I'm not sure how that. I'm not sure what the problem is there. So, but yeah, but let's go back and look at some live flow here in that regard. But yeah, that was just some of the stuff I posted there. I know. Exciting, right? Ooh. Oh, that's us right here. Okay. I thought there was this chat section, but maybe I'm silly. Oh, it probably is right here. No. Oh no, don't do this. I did this last. Oh, here we go. There's the chat. That's what I was looking for earlier. Okay. It's gonna go all weird here for a second. This is like Inception happening. Well, I appreciate you teaching unusual. Well, oh, awesome, Project Rocket for sure. What kind of flow activity would make you lean forward and see like, wow, that's unusual? Oh, Sergio just subscribed. I was just talking about you during the live because you had shared your. Wow, this is getting wild here. because you had shared your gains there. Okay, hang on just a second. Let me close this because this is getting crazy inception here. Hang on just a second there. There we go. I had to back out of that for just a second. All right, we'll go back to some live flow here. We'll look at GameStop. This is how it's coming in. So I've got all the filters removed. So this is everything coming in real time, whether it's one contract or five. And we'll just look at it for a second. Because like I said, I don't want to get in trouble with my people. But we can do a little commentary over it, just so you can see kind of how things come. You can see whether, it was a single leg trade, if it was traded electronically, if it was traded on the floor, if it was a multi-leg part of another transaction or single leg. I'll grab this sip of coffee here. But it's always fun to look at it in real time. And this is, like I said, no filtering. Now, I've got a lot of different filters. And you can do that with unusual whales. Like, say, so for example, we could use like an AI filter even, because this is really cool. Watch this. So here, we're going to do a filter with AI. I know, pretty epic, right? Also, if you want a discount on unusual whales, you can do that. Click right here. And I got you. And watch for when they have the sales, too. They don't do it too often, but that's a really good time to grab it. But if you want a discount, follow along. I'll hook you up right there. It's on my page. But let's go back to that here. So let's say I want to look for, because someone asked, well, what's kind of makes me look, jump out. I want to filter for calls that are at like 90% at the ask, meaning we can assume pretty much buying, not selling. That are 90% at the ask. Let's see here. Let's see how well this AI does. You guys will like this. Filter for calls that are 90% at the ask, and with volume greater than open interest. This would be like something that's like jumping out the window, just to kind of get the ball started. Let's see how it reacts to it. Let's see here. Generating. Let's see here. We want to do the minimum ask set to 0.9 to filter for option release. That's one thing we want to do. Yep, show calls. We want to filter just calls. Yep, exactly. You guys, don't you love this? I know. So for those watching right now, just tuned in, we're doing AI filter building on unusual whales. A shout out unusual whales. Tag them. Someone tag them while we do this. And then volume over OI. It doesn't mean we'll return anything. This was just something I wanted to show you. How you can do this very quickly there. Let's see here if we got anything. Okay, try to use narrowed results. So nothing, because probably it was more than likely the volume over open interest, which is actually a pre-built. So let's unclick that. And we can do that very quickly. Oh, you're like, hey, what's this? I know, right? It gets exciting. I'm like, ooh, what do we got? So then what I'll do then, if I see that here, so you can see this morning, let's look at these here. Let's see these puts here. $25 puts for June 6th. A lot of them. Let's look at those. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what you're doing. Okay. So let's see here. Interesting trade a couple days ago of 2,000 volume and 1,700 pure new open interest. No volume yesterday, 1,200 volume today, and 55 grand in premium here. Let's open this up. I don't know if somebody sold them back here and buying them back. I'm not sure, because they're out of the money puts for June. Let's see, some multi-leg in there yesterday. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's looking like buy here. Like someone's buying these. 1,200. Let's take a look. It could just be playing volatility, a hedge. You never really know. A lot of different scenarios there. Let's see, they're paying $45 for them. Certainly bought them. Maybe. I mean, volume... Still under open interest, so I'd want to look tomorrow. We'll confirm the open interest, but let's look at the price over the last few days here. They may think price is going to go down on GameStop. You know, maybe they think they're going to make some money. So they're going to try to capitalize on that. Not sure. But that's what we saw in that regard here. Let me look at some of these other filters here. Let's see. We're hiding calls. We didn't mean to do that. Let's hide the puts and show the calls. No trades. Okay, hang on just a second here. I want to look for everything. No strike doesn't matter. There we go. Here, let's just reset that filter here. Go back to GameStop. And then we're just going to filter it manually here. We'll just do buy calls. And we'll look, see if we can find anything with ask, let's say of 80%. Or pardon me, 80% or higher. Let's look for that this morning. And give it a second there to catch up to itself. Alright, so we got a little bit there returned. And that's how I say, like, you want to see something, you know, that kind of jumps out. This is not all the time, but sometimes a way to see it here. And this is all coming in real time as well. We're just looking for things that are heavy on the ask side based on price. And that's coming, like, see, for example, here on these 29 calls for May 23rd, 124 is the spot. That's what they paid. And then at the time, the bid was 118. The ask was 124. So that's why it shows bullish at the ask, because it's being filled at the ask. Volume more than open interest. Those are 29s for next week. Those are getting lit up like Christmas. And they are in the money because GameStop's 29 and change here. Yeah, just a little bit more came in there. Let's see here. About $250,000 total on the day, but another $13K in premium right there. So someone likes those $29 calls for next week for sure. That's always exciting. Especially for those that were buying them back on the 8th at $60. They were buying them for $60 and $80 back on the 8th last week, last Thursday, or Wednesday and Thursday. Or pardon me, last Wednesday or Thursday and Friday. And then boom, they got the move today. Yeah, so if you're buying those at 60 on the 7th last week, not bad. Nice. I know, I talked about them. They're in my videos. I talked about the open interest increasing on the $29 calls. That's why I talked about the gamma. I was like, hey. Goodness, almost swallowed my coffee wrong. But the reason I was saying that is I wasn't shilling you to buy calls. I was saying, basically without saying, do you want to make money? Buy these calls. And thank me later. So for those that followed, I know, I already saw your messages this morning. Sergio sent one. He replied to the chat. Other people sent a message like, yo, Wolf, I banked. I was like, I know, I'm happy for you. That's the whole point. Look at that premium, back up to almost 3 milli. They're spending the money. So let's see what else we can look at. A little bit of live flow. I'll flash back and forth in between. We can filter for size here, so we can tighten it up a little bit even more. Let's look for size of maybe 100 or more. Let's see. And that'll filter out a lot. So this will just be 100 or more on the size of the order. So now you start getting into a little bit more money in that regard. 100 contracts or larger. Let me see some more bids. Let's see some more that's selling. Let's see the 30s for May. Let's see. 30s for May 23rd and 30s for May 30th. Just seeing a little bit more activity. Let's pull those up. This morning. There's GameStop's 29.16. We saw that this morning, so they are bounced back up. We just talked about this earlier in the stream. Those had calmed down. 75, they're back up here to 90. So about $1 million premium total. That's buying and selling. You know, it does. I mean, we assume buying and selling based on, you know, the spot at the time of the order when it's filled, but also contracts trade hands. For example, if I'm selling a bunch of calls to close a position, and you buy them, then the calls essentially change hands. You know, you can't have a buyer without a seller, and you can't have a seller without a buyer. So there's people selling you covered calls. It could be a market maker. Could be somebody that already owns the stock selling you calls, providing liquidity. You could be a buyer of calls. So easy ways you could buy to open, sell to open, sell to close, buy to close. 4 different ways on options. So you have 30s for May though next week. People liked it. So don't get caught though. The IV's up a little bit. Any retracement back to 28 or any of these moving averages, your daily moving averages, which I'll put those up right here for you. They're on the left side of your screen. Your 9 EMA 27.73 or 21 EMA at 27. So I mean any retracement down to these EMAs or even any previous price, that GameStop was at, is going to be trouble for any of those out of the money calls. So be careful, please. I don't want to see like, hey, I should have done this. I know it's May. Don't do. I guess for those that banked last year, you already know what to do this year. But if you're like, man, I really messed that up last year with GameStop, this is literally your chance. Don't do the same. Don't make the same mistake, please. Okay. I beg of you, do what you want. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. Just let me see you make more of it, Are they lighting up the 31s for today is what this week? Yes. Don't get caught. Be careful. Be careful chasing out of the money calls at 93% volatility. Holy cow. No. But yeah, be careful. Let's see here. What else we got? 31s net for next week also seeing activity. I just saw that got alerted. Filling at 72. About 300,000 in premium. So volume's double the open interest. So people are excited about this price. Be careful. Because those were just $40 yesterday. 80 today. So, yeah, they are out of the money, about 7% out of the money, about 300 grand in premium. So, it's getting wild. I like that premium though. Gliding high, net put premium just kind of riding flat. But historically today, let's look here. 20 mil already total for the day, and net premium 2.8. So pretty strong in that regard. So far this morning. Let's see what else is coming through here. Selling those 125s for June. Oh yeah. Because we'll talk about that. A lot of people are like, hey, the 125s. And listen, I mean, yes, there's probably people buying these on the idea of a YOLO. Like GameStop will go to 125 or move up. But truthfully, they're 300% plus out of the money. The crazy thing is the premium is really high. So if you didn't think GameStop was going to go to 125 by June, you could sell these and you would get $22 a piece. Now, if GameStop were to close at 125 on June 20th, you would probably be assigned your shares, but you probably wouldn't mind selling them at $125 each. So this has been a no-brainer. People have been selling these 125 calls to you and to everybody else since the beginning of time. The same people buying them. They were selling them the beginning of the year at $250, $230. And now they're $20. So if I was selling them to you right here, I'm buying them back down here. Why? Why not? I want to realize my gain and be done with the trade. Could have bought them back here for $15 after selling them to other investors for 100 or 200. That's what people have been doing with the 125 calls. Don't get it twisted. Some people are like, oh, they're buying, they're bullish. That may be true for some people, but I promise you that's not what's happening. Okay, you are being sold those calls. People are like, but the open interest, it doesn't matter. It's open interest because look at what's happened. This whole time since the last 90 days, you've got 121,000 on the ask, 110,000 on the bid. Pretty much equal buying and selling. The same people believe selling, the same people believe buying. So different thesis. But like I said, for those that were selling these at 70, 100, $200 a piece earlier this year, you made money on that trade. Almost risk free, because if your cost basis to own GameStop shares was $20 or $30 a share, you were at no risk to lose your shares if GameStop squeezed to 125 and you got assigned to sell your shares at 125. It's absolutely a risk-free trade. With AMC, same scenario. A lot of people have like a 310, a $3.20, $3.50 share average, and the stock's trading below $3. You could literally sell risk free 350 calls, that give yourself like, 3 or 4 weeks on it. But you could literally sell 30 days to expiry, 350 calls on AMC as a current shareholder. If your cost base is around 320, 330, 340, and that's a risk-free trade. You're literally collecting premium on the idea you don't think AMC would move up, and you'd collect the premium, and essentially the calls are going to expire worthless. If not, AMC moved up, you'd get out of your position that you probably wanted to get out of if you were down. So you see it all the time. You see people that are down in GameStop. I've worked with people, I've mentored people that are selling covered calls, developed an entire strategy, deployed an entire strategy, and have generated significant income to square up their position. Why? Because they got excited and bought the stock at too high of a price. And it happens all the time. But that's what options are for. Options exist. And if you're smart and educated and spend some time learning or researching or following those that know what they're talking about, they can help you navigate these waters. I love seeing people generate income on a bagged position, like they're bagged on AMC or bagged in GameStop or bagged in any stock, but they're using that trying to use that to basically sell covered calls to generate some income to either, try to shore up the position in hopes that they get assigned on their shares, or they're simply trying to get out of the position or just generate some income, to average down because they may feel stuck. So there's a lot of different ways in that regard on, what you can do with the stock, what you can do with call options, what you can do with put options, what you can do with options in general. So let's pull up GameStop back here. But yeah, I just want to do like a little live here. I said I would. I think some people said, yeah, do it. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I missed it. I'm at work. I know you're at work. I was here at my desk at work as well, but had some time to jump on for it and for you or with you. So let's see here. I'll pull back up Stop. And we can also look at that. We'll pull it up here in just a second. Net call premium right around 3. Let's see, net premium 2.7, but net call premium gliding still around 3 milli. Not bad. Not bad, GameStop. 29. People are excited, I know. I love the sentiment. It can get so mixed. I don't know, does anybody ever read the sentiment? I use Webull a lot for like just screenshots, checking price. I also use it when I look at those stocks. I look at the feed, like the comment feed on Webull and stuff, and it's just wild to see stuff. And sometimes I'll tell people, "Hey, come find me on X. Send me a message. Let's work through this, just to try to help people." That's what I want to do. So I got some other new things in addition to the YouTube. I know some people have asked, like, "Hey, I want to see your live trading." Well, okay, wow, that's extremely personal, but I do share a lot. But I also think, yeah, I have a lot of different other people too. I think that we could really make something a big group thing, a little bit larger than what the X is here, like Discord. So yeah, it's something I've been working on. Just a group of people, like-minded individuals that have objectives. The whole idea is people that want to learn, that people that have money that want to learn, willing to spend the time, the effort. That's what I'm looking for. That way I can consolidate. I'm 45 and consolidate my years into a more concise format for others. What a candle on that, though. Wow, I like seeing that. Let me look at like the 4 hour here on GameStop. I want to look at something here. So everybody's getting excited here. I know we start getting crazy. We start looking at the RSI, even though it's lagging. So the RSI is 70 on the 4 hour. So it's starting to get a little heated up there, but it doesn't mean anything because we've seen the RSI at 80 when the stock was at 29 post earnings. So I mean, RSI, all these are lagging indicators in that regard. Anyways, they're coming after the data. Yeah, I mean, the stock used to kind of be here, though. You know, if we go, let's look at the weekly here. I mean, these, back in the, post election, the 33s, 32s, this time last year, it's what, 64.82? That was wild. Yeah, those were the 60s I was talking about earlier in the stream. That was just crazy. It feels like I can't believe that was really a year ago. But we were here. I posted the flow, I think right then, April 29th. May 1st, not sure. We posted some flow right around here saying, what's going on? GameStop people are looking for upside. And wow, I mean, it exploded. I mean, the money and the calls, it was just rolling in last year. It was, I swear, like if you had just jumped into GameStop, there was a lot of people that didn't know much about options that had kind of just jumped in behind other people last year. That kind of had the vibe of like how 2021 was back during the pandemic when there was a lot of people jumped in, didn't know what was going on, and then caught the move and made some serious bank. I know some people that exercised some obscene call options to build an incredible position in GameStop. I saw it with AMC. I saw them leave their position. I know a lot of people asked me about in the past about my AMC, and I talked about that. You can go back to my post. It was August 8th, 2022. I'd covered the stock extensively for 2 years. And I'd posted there, fair warning. The news about Ape had come out, and the stock was juicing on the idea of Ape coming out. I was like, this is no good. This is dilution. I said, fair warning. The stock is going to probably be drastic, from here. I said that, and I was a big fan of it until the stock became diluted over and over and over. But they had to because AMC burned so much cash. It was required to navigate the debt and to keep it open during the pandemic. So I have to go to the weekly on this because it was back to 22. It was August. I remember it because it bothers me a lot. It was August 8th, right there, exactly. Right at, yeah, it was literally at the top. That's what I thought. That's why I get so bothered by it. Because I thought I had people like, hey, I wasn't telling everyone to sell AMC. I was just like, it's not going to look pretty. After Ape, it's not what you think it's going to be. It was just a roundabout way to raise capital because AMC was denied shareholder approval to issue any more shares after diluting and, well, subsequently, they caught a lot of people off sides that got bagged with AMC. A lot of people still in it. They've spent all this time to average down. My son and I, we left in 22. I left ahead of Ape. I knew. I just didn't like it. I took the last hoorah and got out. Started a new position around $3 and change, and been selling cover calls ever since. Don't really care either. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go back to that, anybody can pull up that post from August of 22. Let's measure it. I don't want to do this, but we're going to because this really needs to be talked about. Now, granted, the high then I think was like 28 or 29, so this is split adjusted. So we'll just go midpoint. Let's see the close 240. We'll just go here to right now at 279. Is that even? There we go. Let's see if I can get my. I guess I'll do it to there. To 290. I guess because it's too high of a price. I need to zoom in there. Hold on. All right, now that I got that, let me zoom this back in. That's how bad it is. Not bad, but yes, it is. I mean, AMC burns a lot of cash. They don't make any money profit-wise. I know they said this quarter, the next quarter, free flow, positive cash flow, but they're still in debt, and I know they're working on it, and I know the writer's strike and the box office. I get it, all of it. Believe me, I reported on it for so long, but I have a feeling on their upcoming proxy that they're going to ask for shareholder approval to issue more shares. Why? Because they're running out of cash. They only have $300 million left, cash and cash equivalents. They burn about that a quarter, so they're really gonna have to kick in some revenue. And I mean, just making more money on concessions per patron, sure, but it's still not shoring up the bottom line. And the reality is, from that post on X, the stock's down 99%. So my fair warning, I know I took a lot of flack for it, but it's almost 3 years later, and I'm not going to be mad about it. If you want to be mad about it, that's fine. I have reached out. A lot of people have reached out to me like, "Hey, I'm in this AMC stock at $4, $5, $6. What can I do?" I've talked about covered calls strategy on the thing forever. I just talked about at the beginning of the video. For those that might be in the stock around here, 350, or 340, 350, you could sell 350 calls almost risk free. And when I say risk free, they're not risk free. I just mean that, let's say you have a cost average of $3.40 on AMC, right? And you sell 350 calls, meaning if AMC goes to 350, you potentially, your shares get assigned and you have to sell them at 350. Maybe you want out of them. Maybe you just want to break even and reapproach, the investment. You could continue to sell covered calls essentially risk free, because if AMC doesn't move, you're just going to collect that premium over and over and over again, which only helps essentially lower your cost basis because you've captured premium and made a profit. Or if the stock does move back up and you want to, exit your position, you don't want to be down on it, then your shares get called away. Boom, the problem solved itself. So I know a lot of people have asked about that, the covered call strategy, and people have been doing it with GameStop. They do it all the time. There's plenty, and it's not for everybody. Some people just own stock. They're just like, hey, I buy it. I buy a little bit more and I hold it. I buy a little bit more and I hold it. Okay, that's cool. I'm just saying, for those that want to generate income on maybe a position they already have, they didn't know about, they could even generate money. There's people that have been sitting on thousands of GameStop or AMC shares forever and had no idea they could actually been generating cash this entire time. That's why people like myself and the Bronx Viking and Colin Gladman and their Discord and Unusual Whales and Alex Jones Industrial Average and all those people I follow, those big traders, in that regard, they're empowering retail traders. They like to see others win, clearly, because they're helping other people. So, yeah, let's look at some of that here. Like I said, I have to search, or it looks always different on, well, it always looks different on phone and then desktop, always different. So let's come back over here to GameStop here. Let's see what's been trickling in since we talked about it. Yeah, so we talked about the AMC a little bit too. So, but yeah, it's just a tough situation. I get it. I really do. I mean, AMC, let's see, market cap 1.2 bill. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. As you look at the financials, it's tough. I get it. Is it going to get better? Maybe with the box office. I think so. That's what Adam Aaron says. I mean, they're putting money into the theaters. They're putting money into the product. So I mean, give it time, I guess. But if we look at like the okay, so AMC 2024 total revenue, annual revenue is 4.64 billion. However, net income for the whole last year was negative 352 mil. So even though they generated 4.6 billion in revenue, they still lost $350 million last year for the whole year. So could it get better this year? Yeah, because it's been improving. So I think if you gave them a solid box office, no writer's strike, a lot of movies, I think they could probably do okay long term. And I know it's another long term play, but the AMC play has changed many times since 2021. Just due to dilution, ape, things like that, different changes within the company have changed up, the trajectory of the stock. But, if you want to look at financials, it's one thing to look at. It's important to look at. Same with GameStop, for example. It's got a $13 billion market cap. All right. It's trading at 61 times earnings. A lot of people are like, hey, GameStop's trading way too high. Well, I mean, they have $6 billion in cash with a market cap of $13 billion. So I just saw 125,000 share order just running through on GameStop. That was wild. Everybody's like, oh, it was a buy, oh, it was a sell. You can't have a buyer without a seller, and you can't have a seller without a buyer. So if you see any trade come through, it's an order is comprised of a buyer and a seller. Yeah, that's what I just saw right there. That 100,000. Yeah, right there. See it on the left, 129,000. Yeah, the order was like 125 and some change. 125,000 shares at 29 and some change. Not bad. Because the notional value there, whether it was the buyer or seller, doesn't matter. But the notional value is about $3.7 million worth. So that means that somebody bought 3.7 million worth of GameStop and someone sold. Someone sold 3.7 million worth of GameStop. Wild, I know, right? Yeah, Flow's still moving along there. Let's see, GameStop 29, some change. 28.97, a little bit of there, a little bit of flush. After that little bit of volume, that 3.7 milli worth of shares, always like to see it. But back to what I was saying about GameStop. For example, if we look at like their, I'll pull up their financials as well. Their annual revenue last year was 3.82 bill, which was less than the 5.27 the year before. But net income out of that last year was 131 mil. So actually turned a profit for the year, whereas the year before there was only 6.7 mil. So you know what, almost a 20x increase in net income for GameStop last year compared to the year before. So I mean they made money. It's not a lot, but they made money. So yes, they brought in less revenue, but they generated profit. And they also have $6 billion. So they have double what they took in revenue last year just sitting in cash. Not sure what they've done with it or what they're going to do with it, but they have it. So it's on the balance sheet, and it is what it is. But, you know, a lot of people I know are like, hey, well, what about Cinemark? And, you know, when you talk about Cinemark and AMC, why does Cinemark trade at $30 a share and have a $3.5 billion market cap? It's 3 times the size of AMC in relation to market cap. Trading just at a premium of 17 times forward earnings. Not too bad of a, it's not really trading that high of a premium. But I'll tell you why. The financials on Cinemark. Well, Cinemark last year's annual income, or pardon me, total revenue was $3 billion, 3.5 billion. Of that 3.5 billion total revenue, they generated $312 million in income. So about 10% of that revenue was profit as net income. So of the 3 billion they generated in revenue last year, 312 mil was net income for Cinemark. That's why they're in a different position than AMC for market cap, share price, etc. You know, compare debts, etc. Assets to liabilities in that regard. So, yeah, you know, Wall Street I think has always had it in for AMC, and that's just my opinion. So, yeah, but I mean a 1.2 billion market cap. I remember when AMC when it was overvalued, but when the stock was trading in 21 back at 40 and $50 and had a 40-50 billion dollar market cap, people had to know it was going to be trouble in 22 when rates started, you know, when Jerome Powell's like, "Oh, we're raising rates, stocks are going to come down." They sure did. Nobody wanted to listen though. They're listening now, aren't they? Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, I'd like to see AMC up that revenue. You know, I'd like to see GameStop up their revenue. So, but I understand. You know, you got a lot of recession, inflation fears out here. Those are just buzzwords. I think they use them all the time in the media to scare you up and down and to scare you in and out of your stock. Your favorite stock too. Yeah, we're still just looking at the flow here a little bit. Nothing too wild. I have just a little bit of live flow, just a little bit of chat with you this morning because I could, and I said I would. I know I said we'd do a video, but I was like, let's do it live because I feel like it's more. Well, it's not more, but it's real time. We can get a look at the real time data, so that's always exciting. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Let's look at the highest volume again today. Yeah, 29s and 30s, the highest volume on 30s for next week. So, kind of in the money, at the money. Let's see here. 30s for June we saw. Let me look at where the bulk of that cash is at here. Sorted out by highest premium this morning. We do this during the videos as well. There's the 29 calls for this week and 30s for next week. So that's where the bulk of the premium is at today. Hello. What's happening there? Hello. All right. Yeah, you can just see the calls. Yeah, these are the 29s, about 1.7 mil total premium, but it's split. Like I always say, buyers and sellers. Different sentiment here. You may think GameStop's not going to go close over 29 this week, so you're selling these, or you might think it is going to go up, so you're buying them, or you're just trying to make, you bought them low, you're trying to sell them high, you're selling them high, you're trying to buy them back low. So they've moved a little bit here in the last few minutes since we started the live. But yeah, it's like just split between buyers and sellers. So, but still strong today. Near 3 mil net call premium. When we look at the last few days here, in the last 2 days we've had some positive net call premium, and then Monday, and a lot of people are like, oh no, it was building up. It can't be positive every day. I mean, it could be, I guess. But these are all just things happening, without any roaring kitty posts, without any craziness. But our last big pop was what I think on May 9th. Was that last big pop in net call premium, and then so today's the biggest day besides May 9th, and I mean before that we'd have to back out almost 30 days because the stock got a little bearish following earnings, but then moved back up. So stock moved back up, and then net call premium been solid though. Yeah, but not bad for today though. Let's see here. And the 30 calls for next week, we'll look at those. Leaning a little bit more ask volume, about 1 million total premium today. We saw that larger one order come through. We talked about that already. Let's see, that was about a 500,000 dollar trade in that particular candle there. So, but those are about at $1 a piece. They've come down since then because GameStop's come down just a little bit in price, and the IV's up 70% so up 10 points. So a little bit of change in price there. Yeah, so if anybody was buying them up here at $1 might have got lured in. You're kind of like, oh, you're down. Yeah, you're down. If you bought them at $1, they're at what, 80? So you're down 20%. Yeah, I get it. I know. That's why you gotta be careful with those out of the money. They'll get you. They'll get you. I know. Don't FOMO in. If you do, try to get it in the beginning. Sell quickly, I always say, because you might get cooked. And then people are like, hey, I know. You just took a screenshot, you were up, and then sold for a loss. What? How does that work? Don't do that. Stop doing that stuff. We see it all the time. So, I mean, I make mistakes too all the time. I get on with it and move forward, I look at what I did. Would I do it again? Did I mess any? Did I break my own rules? What went south? And usually it's a break your own rule. It's not because it was necessarily a bad trade. It was just you broke your own rules. You said, hey, I was going to, if this dropped to a 15% loss, I'm going to leave. No ifs, ands, buts about it. And then I see 15%. I'm like, no, I think, I'm looking at some other things. I think my original idea is still intact. I'm going to stay here. Then, boom, a headline comes. It drops another 30%. You're like, wow, really? Exactly. That's why you got to follow your rules. But it takes time. It takes, after the winning and losing, it takes time. It really does. It really does. I know. We'll look at a little bit more flow feed here before I cut out of the live. Let you get back to your regularly scheduled programming, whatever that may be. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure where that chat was at. I probably missed it again. I do this from time to time. I did this last time, and then because the chat, like you look at it online, and then it pops up. Bear beware, GME, good looking today. Oh yeah. And Sergio, I know he crushed. That's awesome. Gave you a follow, my friend. Appreciate the subscription. Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate the support too. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, 29.50. What are you doing over there? Look at you just popped in here. Hey. Somebody just bought 100 of them, of the 29.50 calls for next week. They paid $100, looks like each. 98. 98. I like seeing it. You're like, hey, what's up? What's happening? You're like, no, don't look at my order. I know sometimes I'll post a trade or I'll post something and somebody be like, hey, that was actually mine. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I've posted others and I'm like, wow, I just shared my trade in the flow. You know what I mean? I didn't say it, but I was like, oh. So I know some people won't share the trade till after because they don't want to get someone trade against them. Because it's real easy, no offense. If you post like if your group's got like an open group and they post and they're all going one way on a trade and they post that publicly, no offense, Wall Street and anybody else that has half a brain on social media can just take the opposite side of your trade and rug you. I've seen it, I see it all the time. People are like, hey, we're jumping in this. And then someone else is like, oh, no kidding, cool. Now I know who I'm selling them to. Like, I just saw somebody bragging the other day. I won't say the name of the stock, but they were bragging about buying a bunch of calls, and I was like, out of the money calls. I'm like, wow, I sold a bunch of those exact same ones out of the money. I was like, oh my gosh, did this person know? Do I tell them, hey, thanks for buying those? That's kind of rude, but no, I just kept my mouth shut. Yeah, but this guy, he rolled up. He bought 100 of them, of these 29.50 calls for next week at $98 a rip. Dropped a nice $9,800, nice 10 G's. Nice little 10G bet on GameStop. Not too bad. I like it. It's exciting. Let's see what these have done the last few days. We see you, Mr. Trader. He's like, no, not me. I know. But this could be somebody that sold some and bought some back. So I would definitely think somebody sold right there. That larger candle. But let's look over the last few days here. Because I know on the 12th somebody bought some as well around 70 earlier this week. Because I had highlighted. I think if you go back and look at Monday's video, if you watched it or not, we talked about those. Yeah, because those showed up. See, somebody was buying them cheap on Monday. They carried over into open interest. They probably bought a few more then on Tuesday. And, yeah, see right here. They bought them at 52 on Monday. Yeah. That could have been them right there, selling some of them. I would. I'd take some right off the table. Boom. Sold 1,000, sell 250 of them right there. Boom, knock that position down. Let's start realizing some money. But yes, it's a smart move on that trader. But yeah, these are the things you can find. I always talk about with unusual whales. How do people know? It's because we see it in real time. I saw someone giving Bronx a hard time, like, hey, why don't you post that? He doesn't have to. Nobody has to post flow in real time. Like, get a subscription. Get yourself some filters on your flow feed, and then you can find some of these things. Because a lot of times, and people like Snorlax and even people at Unusual Whales, they'll tell you firsthand. A lot of times with flow, it's just noise. A lot of noise. Just market maker hedging, etc., etc. Some of it doesn't even mean anything. A lot of cross trade, mid trade, hedge trade, multi leg, but a lot of times too, there's directional trades being made where they couldn't make them any more clear, like signaling something, boom, then the move comes, and seasoned traders know how to look for these things, and we follow them, we tail them, I don't YOLO my whole portfolio, but I'll drop a point or two of my portfolio into a trade, that I feel I seek the flow come in. I take a look at some things, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna follow this because I like what they like, and maybe that works, and sometimes it works really well, because the ones that seem really like unusual, they almost never miss. So they either knew something, and you've seen unusual whales highlight it before, where they don't miss. So usually the trades where it's like, oh, someone new and then they made a lot of money. I never see where they lose a lot. So that really just says, the whole insider trading thing or someone had advanced knowledge. That really happened. It really is true. It has to be. Because, like, some of these weird, outlandish, short dated, out of the money bets, they never seem to miss. And we see a lot of them on unusual whales, and we'll follow them. And sometimes we get cooked and sometimes we win. But again, when you win, that all comes back to, at lose, all comes back to your rules. Cut losers quickly, 10, 15, 20 points. Scale out of winners quickly. Take your gains. What are you here for? You're not here just to lose money. You're here to also make money. This is trading. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. So the flow I'm looking at here is just everything coming in, all of it, loose, whatever. From 5 on ESLT to VIX to SPY. And like I said, it's just noise. You're not going to be able to see this and be like, oh, what's that? What's this? What's that? It comes in way too quick. But you can start filtering things. And that's what I do. There's preset filters. You can create your own filters. What is that? I know. You want to see that live flow, don't you? Let's see here. All right. Let me remove the time filter. And then I'll make sure I'm on mine. I'm on my live. Okay, here we go. So this is mine I've created. Yours may be different. These are things I look for. So this would be like me in a regular day. Regular trading. If I'm looking at it, I'll have some live filtering going on. In addition to my trade, I'll have X up. I'll have my charts up. It won't be the minute chart. I usually just trade daily charts or weekly. I don't need all that. I mean scalps, sure. Don't get me wrong, or entries. I do that too, but yeah. So I'm gonna just have some chart up, have a little bit of that social going on, and then losing my voice a little bit, and then yeah, I'll just have some of my live flow going on, just some of my filtering I've done or just experimented with. Um, over the past years, I've had my unusual whales since 2021, so 4+ years with it. So yeah, not a long time, but I mean they've only been around since like 2020, so kind of been there since the beginning. Me and Mr. Wales used to do space calls during the pandemic. We were doing spaces calls talking about AMC and different option flow when AMC was squeezing GameStop. That was really cool stuff. But let's see what they're doing with Nvidia. Ooh, what are you doing with Palantir? Let's look at that Palantir. What do we got here? Ooh, 150 calls. All right, here we go. You're going to see how I would attack something. So I saw something that I liked. Not necessarily liked, but I just saw something. So I start to look at it. So I look at it. So I see Palantir 150 calls for May 30th. We look at the open interest, only 3,500. Wow, the volume flying today. They sent it right at the open. Let's see, a lot of bid volume there, a lot of ask volume as well. So it could be buyers and sellers selling the 150 calls or buying them. They were at 171 this morning. They're at 140. So my guess is somebody sold a bunch right here. Took advantage of Palantir being up this morning when it was trading at what? How high was that? Let's pull up the Palantir chart. I know a lot of people love Palantir. I've always just like, how is that thing so high? Like it trades 400 times plus earnings. It's wild. Anyway, yeah, I mean it doesn't matter. Like my opinion doesn't matter about what it trades at. If it trade the price, the volume, the price action, the option flow. Take your feelings to the curb, Wolf. I know, I do. But yeah, so here this morning, right at the open, 132, 133. So yeah, more than likely sold those right at the open. Boom, nice hit too. They already made some money on those. About 3.6 mil in premium. So yes, while I felt some people probably bought those, I feel somebody probably sold those as well. On the idea Palantir won't close above 150 on May 30th, and they're going to bank all that premium. Or if it did go above 150 on May 30th, and they felt maybe they wouldn't mind losing their shares at 150. But definitely the highest they've been in the last week, those contracts. So, and short dated, and that they expire in 2 weeks. Not a lot of time there left. So, it wasn't a multi-leg trade either. I'd say, like I said, I think it came through at the bid. Some of these alerts. See, it already passed me up here. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, Palantir here at the bid. So 1600 bearish. Yeah, just like what we thought. So selling. So if you followed that, the idea of that was that, ooh, they're bearish right off the open. I'm going to do the same by either selling one of those or buying a put or selling the stock short. A couple different scenarios there. If you wanted to tail that trader, you could have taken the other side of the trade with $150 put, $140 put. It didn't matter. They were probably just going back to previous day's number. So the stock's got memory. I think they know where they've been at. They know where they want to go. They follow the moving averages. So Palantir went up, came down, came up, came down. So I mean, it's been strong. It's been a name. I know it was a name I was sharing last year. $39 calls when the stock was like 12 or 15. So that was pretty fun. So a pretty good opportunity there. But yeah, that was just something I saw. I saw the Nvidia too. Let's see, they're buying puts over here on Nvidia. Let's see a lot of big premium. Some of that Nvidia. Let's look at that here. See, the 135 calls for this week. Let's see, we're just right at the money there. Somebody went Valhalla there at 183 a contract. Probably loaded them right down here. Probably was loading them up this morning about 110, 120. And then just sold a big chunk at 180. I would. And that's just split between buyers and sellers. A bunch of noise there. This is at the money calls for Nvidia. So, Apple, June, 220s, nice. Look at this hero. What do we got? Well, Tesla 360s for next week. It's trading at 347. Slightly OTM. Those got alerted this morning on Usual Whales. About $700 a contract. They're 1100. So 400 from the alert. Not bad. And you say alert, does that mean buy it? No, it just means, hey, take a look at this. There's more volume than open interest. Is it directional? It was at the time. Oh, wow, it's Tesla moving up. Is there upside? Is there other things with the stock? Is the flow positive? It is. Could I follow the move? Sure. With risk management engaged. Because if you followed this move and you bought them at 7 and say they went down to 650, sell them, you lost. The trade didn't work out. Maybe it does later. Cut your loss, take your money and run. Then you're in it. You're like, ooh, we moved up to 10. Okay, we're already scaling out. They bought them here and they started scaling, gone. That's how this works. It's quick. Boom, 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 boom. Especially with out of the money. Especially with a name like Tesla. It's a great name to trade. A name we've traded. A name I traded this week. We alerted it. So, yeah, good stuff. But yeah, just that was some of my little live flow there. I know if you saw any of it, you're like, hey, you're welcome. Take a look at it for yourself. I know. We'll go back to GameStop here. Get ready to wrap up and take some lunch here. It's lunch in the Windy City. Around lunchtime in the Windy City. 29.06. Net call premium over 3 milli. Cool. I'll come back later in the day. I'll probably do a new video in the morning if that's what you want to do. Make sure you check that out. Appreciate everybody that tuned in to the stream today. If I missed your chat or comment, I do apologize. This seems to happen every time because last time I pulled it up, it gets silly with the chat. Let me try it one last time as I wrap it up here. Because I want the chat detached here. Let's see. Pop out chat. There we go. We'll pop out on them. That's what I tried to do last time. I think, and I got funny with it. And then I started giving you all that inception where it was the live inside the live inside the live. Okay, so we popped out the chat. I guess there wasn't anything there. No worries. Oh, I better back out of that before we get it going again. Silliness. There we go. All right, yeah. So, yeah, but that's what I got here. A little bit of live flow for you on a GameStop. We'll come off pallets here. No, we covered a few things actually. Went from GameStop and AMC and values of the company and revenue and streams and cash. I'll pull back up our daily chart here. I keep it pretty simple with the daily. Yeah, a few moving indicators over there, moving averages, but that's about it. So, yeah, we'll see what it does. The rest of the day. Like I said, I'll post some flow later today into the close, into the afternoon. Still zooming. Love to see it. I know people are like, yeah. I know. It's fun, isn't it? It is fun. Still hitting the 29s, 30s for next week. 29, it's all calls. Like, all the volume's just calls. It's like not a put in sight. That doesn't mean anything. Let's try to find one, though. Because we wouldn't do the due diligence without seeing the other side of some trade here. So let's see. 29 puts. There we go. 28s and 29s. Let's see what they're doing with them. It was slim pickings, like I said. Let's see here. Volume greater than open interest already. Let's see. Bid, ask. So they're a little bit more selling puts, which is bullish. Buying puts is bearish. More than likely probably sold some puts up here at 90 and they've fallen down to 50 already. Because if the GameStop closes above $29, then these are out of the money. Those would expire worthless. So 176,000. Somebody's trying to make a few bucks trading GameStop. I don't blame them. There's money in the option market there. Money on the name. Money to be made with the stock. Up, down, left, right. A, B, select, start. Whatever your preference is. Yeah, shout out to everybody that tuned in. And like I said, love some GameStop Gamma. We certainly do. We just talked about that. We're going to repost the arbitrage stuff and make sure everybody does check that out. I think it's important to see. It's on the page. Okay, cool. Yeah. If you want to see more lives, let me know. We can also do that. So, ooh, 2.8K. Nice. I like that. Hosting. You got the big crowd, so I do appreciate you. Always appreciate all the support, too. I'll be posting the YouTube later, and then the other project titled The Wolf Den. That's all I'm going to tell you. You're going to want to be a part of it, though. I can assure you. Why? You're going to want to make some money. So, you're going to want things like this. $3,000 a contract. Ooh! I know. That was those Tesla 300s. I know! It's still exciting. But anyway, yeah. So the Wolf Den. I know. You'll be excited, I promise. I'll make it work. I'll make it worth your while. I promise that. So, yes, I hope you all have a fabulous day. I'll post some flow later. We'll take a look at the option flow, etc., etc. You enjoy the rest of your Wednesday with the GameStop blazing there, 3.3 mil. Not bad. But you guys have a fabulous rest of your day, and I'll see you real soon on the internet. I'll be around, following the flow.